At this time, I would like to introduce Leonard Bayer of the Law Offices of Leonard F. Bayer, who is going to discuss a very unique new service he is offering to widows and widowers, recently divorced spouses, and to the survivor of a life partner. This service is called Suddenly Solo1. Leonard Bayer is a practicing elder law attorney with offices in Wellington, Florida, and Highlands, North Carolina. He was a Major Crimes Division Chief for the State Attorney's Office under former United States Attorney General Janet Reno, and the Deputy Chief of Major Crimes for the U.S. Attorney's Office in South Florida, the third largest U.S. Attorney's Office in the country. He has given talks to various groups across the country on trust and estate planning, financial planning, and elder abuse. As a practicing martial artist for 30 years, Mr. Bayer has taught seniors how to protect themselves in real life-threatening situations. Mr. Bayer is a bi-weekly columnist for 3 newspapers in North Carolina and Georgia and writes a syndicated blog, As I See It. Mr. Bayer has testified before several state legislative action groups regarding recommendations for new elder fraud and abuse legislation. Leonard, can you tell us a little bit about this service, Suddenly Solo1, and why did you create this?
Thank you, Devin, and thank you for the introduction. Let me just back up for a second, and then I'll give you the reason why I started this. It'll kind of flow through. I've been doing elder law, estate planning, and financial planning for almost 18 years, and that's where my focus has been for the past 18 years. What I have seen in this practice is I'm working a great deal with families, and the family dynamics are really what interested me. What I've seen by working with these families, and that includes sons and daughters, and certainly the partners, widows and widowers, survivors, the spouses, is that they fall into a role when they get married, or when they are married, or when they're together. One person or one spouse, and I'll use the word spouse here generically, one spouse takes on certain functions and roles, and the other spouse takes on other roles, depending upon who's doing what. One spouse may be paying bills, handling mortgage payments, handling credit cards. The other may be doing other types of functions. What I've seen in this dynamics is when one partner or spouse is gone, all the other functions and all the other roles now are now delegated on one individual, which creates, I think, a great deal of emotional stress. Sometimes it can cause embarrassment about what they're doing or can't do or not doing. And what I've seen in that practice, and again, I've also been involved in mediation where, again, I'm dealing a great deal with families. What I've seen here is that there is a gap. I wrote a blog, and it's called When Everyone Goes Home. And what it simply means is that after there is a death, or even after there's a divorce, family, friends gather and try to do the best they can for that individual. And then they go home. There is a gap here of everybody's gone. The survivor, the solo, is now faced with mounting correspondence. All types of things are coming in, credit card issues, land or mortgage issues, bills, financial planning, estate planning. Everything is now left on that individual. And the gap that I saw was necessary to fill is for someone to come in and help in that type of situation. So what I saw here was the opportunity to provide more service, to provide that stability, so to speak, so that the survivor can start to move forward without having to look at the corner of the desk or the corner of a room and see the mounting papers that continue to pile up and obviously make them nervous. This was the main reason why I felt that there was a need for this. And I found that other professionals were not doing this. Other professionals were going to a particular point, and then that was it. But again, this gap was left open, and I thought was critically needed because the individual is going through difficult times.
Absolutely. And what specifically do you do to help these people who are now solo?
Well, let's say someone reaches out to me or someone is referred to me. The first thing you have to do is you have to gain trust with the individual. So we get on either the phone, preferably we get onto a video platform such as Zoom, some of the other video platforms, and I meet with the client. And we talk about the things that are bothering them about what's happening, what they've seen in the mail, information they don't quite understand. And then from that point, I develop a protocol. Having gone through that material with the client, I develop a protocol with the client so that the client has a plan and sees in writing, because I provide them with information, a binder of some materials, but they see that this needs to be done first, or this call needs to be done second. Let's say that they're of age for Medicare. Medicare needs to be called. Who do they call at Medicare? Who do they call as Social Security? Do banks have to be called? Does the Department of Motor Vehicles have to be called? Do the insurance companies have to be called? This entire basket, so to speak, of correspondence and calls, we go through that. I develop a protocol with them of what they should do, what they need to do in an order. And then we proceed through that. What it's doing is it's giving the individual a plan that they can work through. And I think this is the major purpose of this, is to provide that protocol. What I've seen, interestingly too, is that many times people are embarrassed. They're embarrassed to say, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do this. Then they feel that they inept. And what I'm trying to do is get them feeling that there is something that they can do to work through in an orderly fashion that gives them more of a focus, stops the inertia, so that there at least is a bridge they can walk over and see the path that they need to be. That may sound trite, but it's simply a way for them to see how they can function and do these tasks that are now being left on them to conclude and finish without the other spouse telling them what needs to be done.
Excellent. And what has been the outcome of this service when you've worked with people?
It's interesting, and there have been several clients that we've done this for. The outcome is that they start to develop more of a feeling that they can do it. They feel that they're independent again, that no one is taking away their independence because they're able to do these basic tasks. We may think of them as basic tasks, but when someone has gone through the emotional trauma that they have gone through and are continuing to go through, that these tasks seems inordinate, hard to do. What happens here is I start to see more of a picture of can do. I can do it. What I tell clients, and I've told clients in my practice, is this: it's easy to give up certain things to people. Loving children, loving friends, loving advisors. They'll come in and they'll say, well, we'll do that for you, mom or dad or whomever the name is. Once you start giving that up, you can't get that back. And there's no reason why you have to give it up. What I'm trying to do is have these folks realize that with a plan, with a protocol, they're able to see what needs to be done. And if with my help, that's fine. And if they need additional help, of course they can call me. I'm available. What I want to bring out here and simply bring forward to anyone listening or seeing this is that they can reach me. If they have problems like this, they can go on my website, which is www.legalbayer, B-A-E-R, which is my last name.com. All my information is there. They can readily get in touch with me. They can get my phone number. They can get my email address. There's a spot where they can send me instant information. But if they have this need, call me because we can discuss it. Like I said, I see this as a segue here. I can't mitigate the emotional trauma that they're going through right now. I can't do that. And Suddenly Solo1 is not meant to do that. But what it is meant to do is give them a pathway to move forward with these tasks, the response to correspondence, the things they have to do, the things in the future they should consider. But they'll have a protocol in front of them. And this way they feel and have felt much better about themselves. That embarrassment about asking questions, that seems to vanish. So it's been a very positive response that I've seen from clients who've asked for our help. Watching people for so many years, one of the things I find, and maybe it's simply as we get older, we become more reluctant to ask for help or ask questions because, as I mentioned before, the feeling of embarrassment. And what I try to get across to my client is that you don't have to feel embarrassed talking to me. You don't have to be embarrassed asking me what amounts to them, what others might look at as being a simple question. I look at what they're going through and try to put some semblance of order where there has been nothing but chaos for a period of time. If I can do that, and when I do that, this calmness seems to take over, which allows the person to suddenly solo, allows that person to start to function with some degree of normalcy. That's really what I have to say.